saw me lost in treading water. I looked pathetic. I looked as helpless as a stinger without a bee. But underneath my presentation, yeah, I knew the walls were coming down, and the stones that fell were aiming away from me. Hey, what would it mean to you? To know that it'll come back around again. Hey, whatever it means to you, know that everything moves in circles. Yeah. This is the Community Solutions Podcast. Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter from deep in the bowels of our underground lair, where, yes, we're more long-winded than a Kamala Harris answer to a single question, but we make a heck of a lot more sense. How you doing, Andrew?
Oh, pretty darn good.
Yeah?
Better than the old Kamala, that's for sure.
Yeah. James Harris is rolling over in his grave.
Oh, God. James Harris, wasn't that? Oh, yeah.
Yes. Kamala the Ugandan giant. Yes.
Got it. Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't it funny that his last name was Harris?
Yes. I find that funny. I suppose they're not related, but
Well,
who knows?
who knows?
Maybe
I
he
have
was
no
Jamaican.
idea. You're going to make me look it up.
I didn't mean to derail the show a whole minute and a half into it. Sorry.
Hold on, I'm going to look it up.
Are you going to look it up? I bet they're not related. That's a pretty common last name.
No.
Franco Harris could be related as well, I suppose.
Kamala. The Ugandan giant.
Yeah.
Was born in Mississippi.
Well,
So
yes.
even he ain't Ugandan.
No.
Didn't know Idi Amin or anything. I don't know.
No.
All right.
Yes.
Jay, I have no idea on the song. I
Okay.
have no clue. It's the perfect circle. I don't know. No idea.
Perfect Circle has Maynard James Keenan
From
from
Tool?
Tool
Yes.
in it, yes. And I'm trying to remember who else is in that band.
It was a long time ago there.
Josh Freese, the drummer in that band. He's now with Foo Fighters. I don't know. I think he might have been. At least
pretty
early
good. I
on.
was pretty good at that in elementary school.
Yeah?
Food fighter. I was a pretty good food
Yeah,
fighter.
that's good. That's good.
Didn't want to be around me on spaghetti day.
Yeah. Don't wear your whites. All right. Song is Circles by a band called Incubus.
Incubus. I've heard of them.
Yeah. I'm sure you have. But I thought very fitting. We're going in circles, it seems like. Things are coming back around.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it's nice to have an election cycle just about done. I think.
Yes.
I think I could stroke out, and I'm not even involved, and I could.
Yeah.
But being and Jay, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Some people are born an artist. Some people are born, great at sports. Some people are born, they're good at math, or they're good at writing, or they're good at whatever. I didn't choose politics. It chose me.
Right.
I still maintain that if I could get it out of my system, I would do it. But I can't. I'm not wired that way. And I kept saying to myself over these last few weeks, I was not going to obsess over it. I was not going to look at the Real Clear Politics average every half an hour. I was
That's
not
too
going to
late.
bet.
Yeah.
I'm going to lay some money on Polymarket this weekend. I'm going to lay a C note on
Yeah.
Trump to win. But I just, and I think I'm going to throw 50 on him to win the popular vote. Maybe I'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think he's going to. And I think if he does,
Yeah.
I think he'll win more than the 7 swing states. I'm going to make a little prediction there. That I think he'll win more than that.
He's going to take the juggernaut of Rhode Island.
I don't know about that, but I think the lack of polling out of certain states makes me suspicious.
Yeah.
And it makes me suspicious. There's a state or two I'm a little surprised he hasn't made a move. He
Yeah.
may be running ads or something, and I don't know that either.
Yeah.
I know he is in New Hampshire, and I know that in Manchester and Concord, their television catches Western Maine, which is Maine 2. He might be shoring up Maine 2 or making a play there as well. I'm not sure, but because I don't think he can win Maine 1. Anyhow, I'm digressing, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But first, before we do that, I know there's a lot of people who want to vote early and all that, but I want to, Jay, you and I want to make a plea. I know you do too.
Yes.
That before you vote, okay, going back to our roots here, you have got to study on all the elections. That means school board, if you have a referendum, if you have a city council, county commissioner, which you probably do, guarantee you probably do, unless there's an odd year school board, or you may have that.
Yeah.
You have judges, which I know, there's only a handful contested, but if they're you can go to the Secretary of State's page, folks, get a sample ballot. You also have your congressional races. I'm in Congressional District 3. You can go, when you go to the Secretary of State, you enter your zip code, enter your street, and they will give you a sample ballot that you can look at. So before you go there, do your research on who the hell is representing you, not just in Washington, but also here. We got the state rep seats on the line, the House, which is very, very close here in Minnesota. I want to say it's 70 to 64 or something like that. It's very, very close.
Yeah.
So your vote really can matter in those races, and get to know who's running. If there's no incumbent and you got a new person, like I do in CD3, you're going to want to figure out who that is, and educate yourself on that before you cast a ballot. And I'll say this much too. A lot of these local candidates, will put their email, their phone number, something like that on their lit, on their websites. Ask them questions.
Yeah.
Do stuff like that. So I make that plea, Jay.
Yeah. And when you're looking at the websites, there are things you always want to be looking for. There are code words that show up that will tip you off immediately as to who they are. If they use words like equity, that's a huge tip-off that you're dealing with a radical lefty. Right? So there are things that you just want to make sure that, they're talking about restoring freedoms. They're talking about, that they're constitutional in their beliefs. Anytime that they're talking about the climate, anytime that they're talking about, who was it recently? There was somebody that, I'm trying to remember who it was. And they said, I believe in equity over equality. It was somebody running for Robbinsdale School Board.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yes. I believe in equity over equality. Oh yeah. It's spelled Greta Evans-Becker, but of course she's Greta.
She's on the
she's currently on the board.
Now.
Yeah. Nightmare. Let me just say this.
I always say this: if you got a hyphenated name, boy, that's a real red flag for me too. So.
Yeah. Well, let me say this: if your school district is doing as poorly as Robbinsdale and few are, but if you're not happy with your school board, your school district, academic achievement, things like that, don't ever vote for an incumbent.
Well, and also, I would say this too. Sometimes they can be replaced with somebody worse.
Yeah, that's true.
Make sure that you don't cast your vote just because someone's not the incumbent.
Yeah.
Look here in your district, CD5, we've gone from Martin Sabo to Keith Ellison to Ilhan Omar.
Right.
It's gone the wrong direction. So just remember that. If you have to write in Seymour Butts, go ahead and do it. Use it as a protest vote. I don't know. I mean, I'm going to do that. I'm not casting my vote for somebody that I don't know or want. So, I want to know who reads my write-ins. That's what I want. I want to see the look on their face when they read it or read it out loud. I just want to see that.
Goodness.
So, but yeah, I mean, you got to do that homework. That's all a part of voting. That's all part of your civic duty. I can remember, Jay, the old days looking down my ballot going, who the hell are these people? And maybe I should have taken a look-see at what the hell I was doing or thinking. And I do regret that. I do regret that a lot. That I feel stupid now, but...
Well, and it's important because they have a huge say on the amount of taxation that you have to fork over. Whether it's through property taxes or what have you, referendums in the school board, they have says over a a lot of the health and human services welfare that is doled out. They are the ones who decide whether they're going to run light rail near you. They're the ones that are going to decide if you're going to get bus rapid transit or not. There are a lot of big decisions that.
Yeah, maybe the biggest one, development planning.
Yeah, development planning, absolutely. And so these are things that you can't afford to be complacent about because they're the ones that really affect your quality of life. What somebody does in Washington, it's important how our president interacts with the leaders of the world and the strength that they show at the UN and things like that. But for your day-to-day life, it really affects you more, the people that are closest to you. Speaking of president, I didn't know that your relative was running as a VP with Rochelle Fruit for the Socialist Workers' Party.
Who's that?
Dennis Richter.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the old Denny I said hi.
Yeah.
Whoever the hell he is. He's probably... I'm not related to him. He's probably related to me. That's
that could be.
It's kind of like my great-great-great-great-grandfather, Adolphus Richter, captain of the Mayflower.
Right.
I mean, I'm all over. I'm all over history.
State House, like we said, super important. I know, like, in my area, we know Todd Hessman, who's running against Cedric Fraser. Good guy. He'll get my vote for sure.
I'd say something for John Bristol up in Maple Grove.
Yeah.
Running in a very, very competitive district. That's a very... who wins that district could be a telltale sign of who gets the majority. Same thing north of me up in the Champlin, Coon Rapids, Dayton area. There's some there's hotly contested races there, those further a little bit outer suburbs. So, yeah, there's a lot on the ballot and there's a lot at stake. And you're just going to have to put in the time. It's your job as a voter to do that once every 2 years. If you're going to cast a ballot, you got to have the knowledge and all that with it. So I think while we talk about early voting, I do think it's important to make sure you vote. And look, I've done that too, especially if I wasn't in town on election day, which has happened to me several times.
Yeah.
That early voting, but you got to be an informed voter.
Absolutely. County commissioner in Hennepin County, Jeff Lundy is up again, our buddy Jeff.
Who's running against him?
Guld Ahmed Badel. So I don't know which one is better. They both sound bad. Here's what I know about Jeff Lundy. He would sell his mother to get the light rail built.
Oh, yeah.
And he really doesn't care what you think about it. So it's...
Very true.
Yeah. He's got a lot of that developer money jingling around. My city councilman is up, Mr. Fabio himself, David Cummings.
Buttering bread.
Yes. Unfortunately, nobody stood up to run against him. And before I get hate mail from all of you, listen, we are doing strategy for many campaigns around the state. I don't have time to run a campaign as well.
Because blame you.
Because this is the thing. Is it better that I run or that I take on 10, 15, 20 people who think like me and put them into seats around Minnesota? I will take multiplying myself any day of the week. I'm
going to say that that's a false choice. I think that you can walk and chew gum at the same time, Jay. I also think you could help recruit somebody over here as well. I think that's a false choice. I think you should have run.
Shut up.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying,
Shut
you want
up.
my honest opinion.
When am I
you should have gotten off your dead ass and done it.
Oh my word. Don't tempt me. I could start a write-in campaign today, a week and a half before the election or whatever. I could still beat him.
I'd win.
I could still beat him. Campaign. I don't advise that for anybody else, but it's very hard to do a campaign. But this guy, because he's running unopposed, hasn't put together any kind of a campaign, isn't ready for any kind of a campaign. If all of a sudden dropped 1,800 houses, I'd stand a pretty good chance.
It's possible. I think, though, I think the hard part, I always think campaigns need a narrative, and I think that's the, hard part. Plus, you miss the people who've already voted. I mean, could it happen? Sure. I think, though, that if he were smart, he'd have done the legwork anyway. And
he's not.
Stayed in touch with his voters and just said, well, just because I don't have an opponent doesn't mean I'm done representing you. I'm going to represent you for 4 more years, so I'm going to make that commitment. And unfortunately, he sits with his thumb up his butt.
He's too busy helping kids get transed in ISD 279.
That's right. He's too busy doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so...
One other thing I want to cover on this before we move on. Judicial elections. Everybody skips over them. Nobody knows what to do. There's so often not even a contested race. There are some contested races, and it's important that you look them up because Walz appointed all of the incumbents in the Supreme Court elections, the Court of Appeals, and for those of us in the 4th District Court, there's also one there. Now, let me just say, there's this guy, and I want to get this right, but Carl Procaccini, who is Associate Justice 6 on the Minnesota Supreme Court, was a personal lawyer of Tim Walz and wrote a bunch of the regulations for COVID. Yeah. Wouldn't you? He's already serving on the Minnesota Supreme Court.
And, of course, he got his reward for that, for being so bad at it. As always in DFL circles, the more you suck, the more you move up.
Right. So just so you know, from what I could tell, Stephen A. Emery, who's running against the incumbent for the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, is good. Matthew R. Hansen looked really good, constitutional conservative. Jonathan R. Woolsey looked good down Judge 12 at the Court of Appeals, and then down on
Woolsey,
4th District Court,
I know a Woolsey.
We have Matthew Frank and Christopher Lacrone. Well, Matthew Frank is terrible. Another Walz appointee. Christopher Lacrone doesn't look great, but he wasn't appointed by Walz, so he's got that going for him. I don't know. Do your own homework. It is what it is. But it's important that we get those things right. So I'm gonna leave you there.
All right. Well, Jay,
yes.
State of the race right now. We're going to go. I want to say this. Before we get to the presidential race.
Yes.
What do you make of the Senate races right now?
Federal?
Yeah. What do you make there?
I mean,
do you think...
I think the Republicans will win. They're starting with 50 seats. If you look at all of the strong Republican, leans Republican.
Plus West Virginia.
Plus West Virginia. They're sitting at 50 seats. They've got to win one of the toss-ups. That should be doable. But even with 50, if Trump wins, J.D. Vance is the president of the Senate. Mm-hmm. So I feel pretty good about the Senate at this point. Does that mean anything? I guess it could go sideways. Of course, I think that, and we'll get into this later, but I think the down ballot implications, having an energized Trump that seems to be surging is going to only help Senate candidates on the Republican side, and as poorly as Kamala's doing right now, it's only going to hurt turnout on the Democratic side. I don't think she's motivating them to get out.
Yeah, I think, again, I'll add the Montana seat's gone. That puts the Republicans at 51. I think Ohio's gone, too.
I think so.
There's no way Sherrod Brown can overcome I think Trump will win Ohio by double digits. I'll tell you the race that I am really going to... I think all three could go... of the Rust Belt states. All three could be. Trump could win all 3 states.
Yeah.
all 3 Senate seats could go. I think Kerry Lake depends on Trump's margin in Arizona. I think if Trump outperforms, which there's a likely chance that could happen, I think he could drag her. But
although she had a really good debate against Gallego.
Yeah, why did they wait so long to debate?
I have no idea. But it worked out because there were things that he had not disclosed that Kerry Lake was actually able to bring out during that debate that made him look awful.
Yeah, I heard about all that. Yeah, I mean, that race has tightened a lot. The same thing in Nevada. But I think Trump's margin might tell the tale. But I think Pennsylvania is the barometer for everything.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania, I mean, it's, I would argue Trump's ahead there. I think it's by more than people think. But the Bob Casey race to me is the one to watch. I think if he goes down, I think he takes others with him. Casey used to be a real moderate, and he's changed with the party, which I think he's running from Kamala Harris. He has Donald Trump in his ads, which is the weirdest thing. You vote to impeach,
isn't it?
You vote to impeach a guy, call him Hitler, and now he's in your ads. I mean, it's just. I mean, again, if we had an honest media, this would never fly. But that tells me where that race is, and there's 2 polls now that show McCormick ahead. There's 3 more that show it tied. I think there's a good chance he's going to lose, and I think Tammy Baldwin's in a mess of trouble in Wisconsin, but Wisconsin is hard to figure out because I think that will be the closest state maybe. The president, I would make Trump the slight favorite there, but it's going to be a 50-48 state, no matter who wins or loses. It's just going to be. So, but I think if Casey goes down, I think they all go down. I think Pennsylvania's the first domino to knock them all. Because for the Republicans, it's one thing to get 51 seats or maybe 52. Getting up to 55 or more is, and these are 6-year terms. I mean, this could be a Republican Senate till 2030 if they get that many.
Right.
So I think that's, and you see the candidates there kind of doing what they think they have to do to win. Yeah. And there's not that unified Democratic voice. But I think where it stands right now, I think is teetering on the 52. And then if Casey goes down, I think you're going to see a boom. Yeah. If he here's the thing. We'll talk about Pennsylvania in a minute. Trump wins the state 50-49. I think Casey might survive. He wins that by. And you got to remember, 1 point in Pennsylvania is like 150,000 votes. I mean, it's not New Hampshire here where 10,000 moves at 3 points. I mean,
and I don't know what to believe either. It's
hard to know.
Things and you hear, the Republicans are way out registering the Democrats. And it wasn't that far of a difference back, 4 years ago, so I don't understand why there's not a bigger disparity between the Republicans and Democrats as far as poll numbers go.
Well, I'll tell you why, because I don't think the new registries are being polled. I think that's what they're missing.
That could be part of it. Also, and I don't know any truth in this, but supposedly about 55,000 Amish voted in 2020. And this year, I had read something saying that 200,000 of them are poised to vote, and they're solidly Trump. Is that true? I don't know. Again, what are the sources? But, I mean, these are the kinds of things we keep hearing, yet we see these polls that are razor thin.
Well, you see polls that are razor thin, but, I mean... I think you have to look at what the campaigns are doing. I think that tells you who's ahead and who's behind.
Yeah.
I think the data that we have of who's already, I think the polls are going to be less important from here in. I don't know how you poll a state. Actually, let's back up, Jay. Let's go state by state quick.
Okay.
I want to start with Nevada.
Oh, before we get into the presidential stuff, we talked about the Senate, U.S. House. You think that's safely Republican?
I don't know about safely, but I think the Republicans will probably win it because I think that some of the seats that I know they've targeted, like in Florida, for example, where Democrats have spent a surprising amount of money. I think part of it has to do with the abortion ballot thing, and part of it has to do with flipping a few House seats, like Anna Luna's seat over on the Atlantic side. I think the feeling among Democrats was that she won on like DeSantis's coat. That was a new district with
redistricting.
And I think that people thought DeSantis won by 20, Marco Rubio won by 16, and I think it was just a Republican blowout. I've seen one poll showing her up 8 right now. I don't think it's working. They've spent a lot of money against her. That's just one example. And again, Ohio, there's several vulnerable seats, but I don't see them flipping. There's no money being spent there. If I had to guess, I'd say Republicans hang on, but I don't know that they increase it too much. I think they're putting their money in the Senate, which I think is kind of weird because I'd rather have the House.
Right.
But personally, I think they do hang on, but I think the majority is going to be less than we're hoping for.
Yeah.
I mean, they could pick up a few seats, particularly in – I am really anxious to see, like, Virginia has a couple seats on the north west part of the state. Republicans were targeting all 3 in 2022 and won only one of them.
Yeah.
And so that may be a telltale sign if early on. Virginia's polls call at 6:30 our time, 7:30 Virginia time.
Yeah.
So we might know early if Republicans flip one or two of them. They might have a pretty good night.
Okay.
But I think the Republicans have more safe seats too. But House races are so hard to, put your finger on.
Right.
They're just really difficult. I mean, the incumbents have such an advantage. So many districts are so gerrymandered. I think the top of the ticket will provide a lot of it. And that.
Well, and we'll get into that too here as we move into the next segment. But I think where you see Trump, and he's at Coachella in California, he's at Madison Square Garden, he's not shying away from some of these places where he thinks he's going to be able to pick up some seats.
Right, and so, I would add something too to that I think part of it in California, there are some House seats up.
Yeah.
I think that is very, very possible that a few House seats will flip. I think upping Steve Garvey's percentage will have a lot to do with that because I think if Garvey's able to get into the 40s, which he may, I think that may put a couple House seats over the top, believe it or not. I mean, they actually, gained a seat or two in California in 2022. Wow. I know they're targeting a few. I know that when Trump was in Colorado, there's 2 key Laura Brobart's race, which was in western Colorado, and then south of Aurora, where Trump was 2 weeks ago. I know that those are hotly contested races in Colorado, too. I mean, every state has red and blue parts to it. Yeah. So it's, there are definitely states that can flip. I don't know how many are true toss-ups. Right. Maybe 30. I mean, that are, really toss-ups. You've got maybe another 30 that are lean one way, lean the other. Right. And you've got 300 that are probably not going to move no matter what. So
it's true. But they're out there, like here, House District 2 and 3 are both seats that could go either way. They're more likely to go. 2 is more likely to go to Angie Craig, but not necessarily. And 3, Tad Judah served in the Minnesota legislature before, and so if anybody could win 3, he definitely has a shot.
An open seat is always questionable. The weird thing about the Angie Craig thing, District 2, was they did a poll. I don't quite trust Channel 5, but they did a poll that showed Craig up by 8, but showed Harris only up by 2 over Trump. And so there's some question as to whether Joe T-Rab is being undercounted there. I think they're bracing. I think Craig is not stupid. I think she's bracing for a 52 to 48, 51, 49 kind of race. You see her distancing herself.
Yeah.
She distanced herself from Joe Biden really fast,
right?
Even though she's voted with him a lot.
Yeah.
But if I had to guess, I would say she ekes out a small win.
She almost lost 2 years ago.
She's almost
if
lost.
It wasn't for the having a bad candidate.
She's almost lost every time she's run.
Yeah.
I mean, when she beat Jason Lewis, it was by a very small amount.
Right.
And the last two times she's won, 52-48 both times.
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
Yeah, but there's quite a few of those around the state, when you get into like the suburban type areas, around the country when you get into those suburban type areas. So we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, yeah, and again, I think with the anything's possible there with it's a weirdly shaped district. It's got some very urban parts, some very it's by far the goofiest district in the state.
Yeah.
So naturally, it's the hardest to predict. Right. But I think the outstate ones will stay where they are. I think the two inner city ones will as well, and 2 and 3 are probably the only ones that are really all that competitive. Which is funny because you go back 15 years and Jim Oberstar was from northern Minnesota for how many years in the DFL? Colin Peterson was out in the West. And now they've just completely, of course, Tim Walz, CD1 used to be his. And I think if Walz would have run again down there, I think he'd have gotten beat. Yeah. So I think he lost it when he ran for governor.
He certainly would not win it today.
Yeah, he would not win it now. So, hey, I don't know. Minnesota will be strange. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. So, anyhow,
yes,
we'll move on. I want to start with Nevada, and I want to start with Nevada for one reason.
Yeah.
Nevada was the one state, Jay. We did that video a couple of weeks ago. The one state I was not the most confident about for Trump. It is a state that should win. Harris should win this state by 8 or 10.
Yeah.
I mean, the demographics, the mail-in balloting.
The mafia. The labor unions.
Right. And believe it or not, it's really not a rural state. I mean, like 80% of the state lives in like 5 cities.
Right. It seems like it would be rural because
of federal land.
It's all federal land with not a lot of people living out there.
Yeah, but you
ranchers.
You got Reno, you got Carson City, you got Henderson, you got Laughlin, you got Vegas, and then the rest of the city is Area 51. So you wouldn't think that this would be that competitive, but as we've talked about, the economy has just been very slow there. Immigration's a big issue there. Trump's cut into that hospitality vote, that Hispanic vote. There's no question that he has. And looking at, and again, this is the whole thing from my perspective is we expect the early voting to go Democratic. I think that's the expectation of a lot of so-called experts.
Yeah.
And I want to say something about first off, there's absentee ballots and there's early voting. And Jay, they're two different things.
Yes.
Absentee ballots is the requested mail-in ballot. And early voting is in person, but not on election day.
Right. And there is a third option. There are states that just mail out ballots to everybody.
Nevada's one of them.
Yes.
Which, again, should be...
It should be illegal.
Yeah, it should be. Can I say something?
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I scratch my head at is how decentralized of an election system we've got.
Yes.
Now, you know me, Jay. I'm a states' rights guy. So are you.
Yeah.
Federal government, 90% of what they do, I hate.
Yes.
Okay, maybe even higher than that. But is election something that should be this decentralized? I mean, let me ask the question backwards.
Okay.
Is it fair? Because I think it raises real equal protection questions.
Yeah.
It raises 9th and 10th Amendment questions.
Yes.
Chain of custody, something I concerns me. Those things all worry me. And is it fair that one state does mail out ballots and one state doesn't? Is it fair that one state requires an ID and one state doesn't? Is it fair that one state has same-day voter registration, another doesn't? Is it fair that one state you register with a party and another state you don't? Are these things fair? Now, look, I said I'm a states' rights guy as much as anybody, but another state screws up this election, it affects who my president is.
Yes.
So is that fair? Is it fair that, one county remember the hanging chads? One county accepts this ballot in Florida, the next county doesn't. Is that fair? I mean,
no.
Do we need a uniform standard of elections? I mean,
yeah.
Now, I'm not saying the feds should come in and...
I don't know. And I do draw a line between federal elections and state or local elections. But again, there are things that are being done even with local elections that I scratch my head and say, I don't know that that's constitutional and should ever be allowed. Yeah. Like some cities let illegals vote in their local. Give them the ability to vote. How do you weed them out for the federal elections? I don't know. It's easier, like if your local elections are an odd year election and you don't let them vote in even year, I guess, theoretically. But how do you weed them out? Like they've got to have some sort of ID, right? And that's how
I don't know because
they register in the first place.
Right, but doesn't the Secretary of State handle the voter rolls?
Yeah.
So they would have to do it.
Right.
Yeah, look what's going on in Virginia, where Governor Youngkin has cleaned up the voter rolls by getting rid of dead people, non-citizens. He's being sued.
Yeah.
By Merrick Garland.
I know. What?
You're suing him for getting non-citizens off the ballot? You had to get an award.
Yeah. I don't, but that should just clue you in as to the mindset and the strategy of the Democrat Party. And why would you want to keep something around that you know is false or is wrong, that you know is unconstitutional, that you know is
because they can get away with it,
right? But it to say it out loud.
Are you going to election deny? Are you going to be an election deny?
But to say it out loud, I mean, that's the crazy part, right? It's like they would never admit to this stuff 5 years ago, but now it's like, oh yeah, just let them vote. What? Or you can't be restricting people's ballot access. Wait a second. If they're illegal, yeah, you can.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, no doubt about it. So I don't know. I admit, I mean, I am a little concerned about state to state. I mean, we just have a decentralized, just is what it is. I mean,
right.
So anyway, we're going to win. First off, state of the race right now. I just want to get back to that for a second. You just have to watch the campaigns. I mean, my only fear with Trump, two things. One is overconfidence. I don't think he'll get overconfident, but I think Republicans are starting to beat their chest right now, and I think we don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I think number two is I think it's against Trump's instincts to not fight. He's not good at playing, like, I don't want to call it prevent defense, but he can just kind of coast to a win right now.
Yeah.
And man, that's against Trump's every gut feeling.
Yep.
And it's kind of like the challenge for him, I think, is to say, okay, do what you're doing, stay on message.
Yeah.
Don't let the media goad you into saying something, because then that becomes, they're looking for a reason to make him, you got two candidates, Trump and not Trump.
Right.
Okay. So, and I think they got to employ, I think they've been doing a good job employing J.D. Vance and some of the other surrogates. So I think it is good that they're doing that. So I think that's the task for Trump. I honestly think Harris's strategy, I wanted to say this before, and I want to know what you think about this. They've given up on issues. They're done. There's nothing Harris can do or say right now. Anything she says right now will be seen as she's just trying to buy votes or get votes. It would take 7 to 10 days for any new policy to sink in anyway. She don't have that. Her only strategy right now is to just enrage people to get to the polls.
Yeah.
It's her only, I think their strategy from the beginning was to say nothing and to let Tammany Hall do its work.
Right.
And when that started to fail about a month ago, they haven't been able to course correct.
Yeah.
And like we've said before, if this were July, she could course correct. She can't now.
Yeah.
They're stuck with aspirations and dreams and the stars and the cosmic rays, and that's what they're stuck with. So their only thing they can do is just gin up as much anger and hate. I saw Barack Obama, who I've tried to respect. I saw him give probably the most hate-filled speech I've ever heard him give.
Yeah.
I don't think he mentioned Kamala Harris's name.
Wow.
He just went into it was racist.
Yeah.
It was sexist.
Yeah.
He basically said, hey, you brothers just don't want to vote for a chick. That's what's going on.
Right.
Which is, boy, you talk about desperation. First off, did Hillary Clinton get like 85% of the black vote? I really don't think that's the problem.
No.
It just gave an excuse. It was very stupid to try to shame people into voting for someone.
Yeah.
It was just ugly. And I think that's the strategy. We're gonna bring out Bruce Springsteen to play Born in the USA. I think they don't know what to do. And you see the frustration. Watch CNN.
Yeah.
Watch David Axelrod. He's like losing hair every time Kamala talks.
Yeah.
Van Jones was going nuts last night. That this isn't working. This isn't doing it. And they didn't say that out loud a month ago. They might have thought it, but they didn't say it.
But even a change in the way Kamala has been going about her business, instead, she's still giving the word salads and not answering questions, but she's starting to get angry in some of her answering and in some of her, I don't know if you saw the other day, I think it was a rally she was doing, and she started talking about Donald Trump, and she just started like yelling.
Yeah, it was raging hate.
Yes.
I know, and that's... I just think that's all they've got right now is just raging hatred, which I think that's their close.
Yeah.
But that's it. That's what they're going to do, and hope that works. And I quite frankly, it's funny, you're not hearing other Democratic candidates pick up on it.
No.
They're not saying that.
Nope.
And Democratic pundits are kind of scratching their head. Harold Ford Jr. the other night was. I don't know what to say about it. He was on the 5 going, I don't really know what to say here. It's just, he wants to, and he's a pretty fair-minded Democrat, I think.
I think so too.
But they don't know what to make of it. So took 2 days off the campaign trail.
Yeah.
We talked off camera. What was Walz doing in Kentucky today? What was that?
He's not going to win Kentucky.
What are they doing? They're trying to help Rand Paul or what? I don't think Rand's up. But
No.
I don't know what. Bashir's not up. What are you doing? I have no idea. It's just goofy.
Yeah.
You're not going to raise money now. Your money is your money. It's
and
already
they've
been
got
spent.
twice as much money as Donald Trump has right
Supposedly.
Yeah.
I don't know
now. There'll be more information
what
coming
they
out
say.
about that.
Yeah,
The way that Act Blue works and what people are finding out, there's some shady business going on
and
there.
I think Trump's PACs have a lot of money. I think that so anyhow. So, and I think again, it's a part of this. I think is and we're going to get into this later. Is just a reaction of what's going to happen next Tuesday, and I think it's becoming clearer. And I think there's going to be, I pray for the country.
Yes.
After this, but Nevada, interesting state.
Yeah.
Right now, I got this today.
And where are you looking at? Just so people can follow along.
This is their Secretary of State's page. They have a graph up here about. I took a picture of it on my phone, so I actually don't have the website to rattle off. But what they can do, you cannot count the ballots and publicize that now. But since Nevada does party registration, they know how many Democratic ballots have been turned in, how many Republican ballots have been turned in, and how many what they call unaffiliated. Every state calls that differently because some states you can actually register with the Green Party or the Libertarian Party, or you can independent or unaffiliated. Every state, again, does it their own way. Arizona does it completely different than this. But in Nevada, 41%, about 400,000 ballots have been turned in, Jay. And, I mean, that's a lot. I mean, we do have a week and a half still.
Yeah.
But I want to put, now remember, Trump lost Nevada. He lost it 50-48 last time. Yeah. But about 1.4 million people voted. That's more than a quarter of the total.
Yeah.
Now that we may get more votes this time, that could happen.
Yeah.
We may get less. We don't rightly know.
I don't expect less.
I don't expect less either, but I would expect somewhere near the same. But 41% of those ballots are Republican, 36% are Democrat, the other 23 are unaffiliated. So right now, early voting and absentee ballots, and Republicans are winning. Now, the conventional wisdom is that Trump's going to win Election Day.
Yeah.
So if Republicans are ahead, now, again, there's another week to go. Democrats have the reason this is so important is because you talked about how they spend money. Democrats put so much money into what they call their ground game.
Yeah.
And the big thing about their ground game is early registering to vote and voting early, voting absentee, voting early in person. And if they're losing that, that is a huge, huge warning sign. Now, does that mean Nevada's over? No, not saying that. Could there be a surge? But watching the campaigns, you get the sense that that's not going to happen.
Right.
So I was very iffy on Nevada a week ago. I'm much more bullish on it now.
Oh.
But I want to say, too, this is real data. This is not a poll of 800 people out of 1 million voters. Okay,
right.
This is real data on votes cast. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's what I think. In fact, Polymarket has moved. It's now 64-36 for Trump to win Nevada.
Wow.
And it was 50-50 2 weeks ago. But when this data has come in, it really, really changed. So you're seeing Democrats go there less. You're seeing Sam Brown gain in the polls. Now, I don't know that he's going to win, but I think that race will be closer than we thought it would be in the Senate out there. So really, really interesting. What's your take on Nevada? I mean, if you had to lay, I know, Jay, that you're a gambling man. I mean, you take chances. You run with scissors.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I mean, Here's the thing that worries me, and I mean, we look at these numbers, and they're definitely better. We are playing that game. To me, early voting is a signal of enthusiasm, for one. Number two, it, I think, can capture voters who are less likely to vote because you can kind of capture the momentum of someone that, okay, you convinced me, I'm going to vote for so and so, and they go do it. I think sometimes, on election day, you have a storm, somebody breaks a fingernail, you're hungry, you might not make it to the polls. You got to work late. So by having the option to vote early, I think we capture some of those other people in the midst of their enthusiasm. So I think that it means more votes, right? And ideally, yes, whoever is winning in the early vote totals should ultimately, it's an indicator. It's not proof in the pudding,
right,
of who's going to win that. Because if you have, let's say you get 300,000 early votes, but it's from 300,000 people that would have voted anyway on election day, it really doesn't matter. It's the people that you're convincing to come out that normally wouldn't have come out where you're getting that boost from.
That's possible. My guess, though, is that the campaigns know that.
Right.
Because they know where they've canvassed. They know who they've registered. It's especially in states like this where you've got how many people have done that. And by the way, Nevada in 2020 had 78% turnout.
Wow.
So that 1.4 million, I mean, I don't think that's going to go up by much.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to have? 85, 90?
Yeah.
If it were Chicago, it might be 110. I don't know. But I mean, I don't know that you're going to see a huge,
right.
80% is
well, you hear of like Californians leaving California. They're not really going to Nevada. They're going to Montana, they're going to Wyoming, they're going to Texas. Colorado, they're going to
Yeah, I mean,
and so it's I agree with you on that. They're not gonna that number's not going to increase too terribly much.
No, it could. I mean, it could increase 5%. It could increase 10%. But I would not put that much higher than that. I just think it's. Because from what I've heard from the Trump campaign, they think that independents are leaning their way.
Yeah.
I think the two counties, the Washoe County, which is where Reno is, in the north western part of the state, which is a very 50-50 county. Mm-hmm. And of course, Clark County, which is the biggest, where Vegas is.
And that's trouble.
Yeah, that's trouble. But I was just going to say here, in 2020, Biden won Clark County 54-44.
Yeah.
So it's not 80-20 like that's a big city.
Right.
So, I mean, I think there is a possibility that Trump could cut into that with his gains on the Hispanic vote and on the no taxes on tips and things like that.
Right.
So and some other counties have 3,000 people in them. Like I said, right. I mean, you've got the five major cities: Laughlin, Henderson, Carson City, Reno, and Vegas.
Yeah.
And then it's 96-4 Trump in the rest of the state. But we'll see where this goes. I mean, there's a liberal paper and a few liberal columnists out in Vegas or out in Nevada kind of sounding the alarm right now that this is, they're trying to make excuses, but the truth is they know this isn't good for them no matter what. So Nevada, let's make you bet a quarter or two, Jay. What do you think for Nevada if you had to make a choice there?
Yeah, I think he's going to walk away with. I mean, not walk away handily, but I think he'll come away with a victory in Nevada.
I'm going to agree with you. I think he does win it. I think he may only win it 52-48, but I think he does win it. Good. All right.
Yeah.
Next time I'll go first and see if you agree with me.
Okay.
Let's move to Arizona.
Let's do that.
A state that, I don't know.
that hasn't fixed a single one of their election problems from 4 years ago.
Yeah, I worry about the vote counting here.
Yes.
But
well, it's only going to take 10 to 13 days.
I don't know.
That's it.
You know what? And we're owed answers here for why that happens.
Yeah.
You know, my hope is that Trump has it clinched, and because, again, Trump's easiest path is, of the 25 states he won in 2020, really only North Carolina is being contested.
Yeah.
So 25 states plus Maine 2 is 219. So you need to hold North Carolina, win Georgia and Pennsylvania, and that's 270.
Yeah.
So it's possible that we'll know the result and Arizona will still be picking their nose.
Right.
Okay. But Arizona is a state where Trump has really pulled away. I mean, he's pulled away when CBS has him +3, when the New York Times has him +5. Emerson, which is one of the few polls I mildly trust, has him +2. Insider Advantage, which is kind of a Republican poll, has him +3. Marist has him +1, but that's a liberal pollster. They had him down before. These are all the final polls, I believe. I don't think they're going to do any more.
Okay.
And I want to see something about polling. How do you poll right now? I mean, if Nevada, if 25% of the people have already voted, how do you do a poll right now?
Right.
How do you take into account who's voted, who might vote, who's registered to vote, who's likely to vote? How do you do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I say I think that what you're seeing the campaigns react to is what we have. But Arizona, yes, they're going to take till 2078 to count. But again, I think immigration is the issue there. I think the Dems have nothing to say on that issue.
Yeah.
Harris has had 50 different chances to answer, and she never gives one. It's a bad look.
Yeah.
I think they won't give up on it because of the Senate race, but that's the one I'm probably the most confident that's in Trump's camp. And I think it was an anomaly that he lost it last time. Republicans usually win that state, although it's been weird the past couple of times.
Right.
When Kristen Sinema won, it was like a week later, and I just don't trust the process there. But
I don't either.
I'd like to see Trump outside the margin of error. He's like on the borderline.
Uh-huh.
But again, with 11 days to go or whatever, I don't see Arizona turning around. Jay, what say you?
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be too big to rig, but
early voting looks good there too.
Yeah.
So, and Republicans have about a 200,000 vote in that state. They kind of go with the way the election's going.
Yeah.
It's going Republican. They vote Republican. You know, people say independents do that, but I think that's an overgeneralization.
Yeah.
So I would put that in the Trump column. I'm pretty confident about that. So Georgia.
Yes.
Another state with early voting looking not good for Democrats.
Yeah.
Supposedly 1.9 million people have already cast a ballot in Georgia.
That's amazing.
Which is insane. Okay. But supposedly, and I don't know how they know racially who's voting.
Yeah.
But I've seen reports that the black vote's way down in there. Fulton County in particular, which is where Atlanta is.
Right.
Harris needs good. There's Clark County where Georgia University is. A lot of young people.
Yeah.
She needs solid majorities there.
Right.
I mean, she needs to run it up there because she'll get creamed in the rest of the state.
And I don't know. I mean, there are so many African-American males who are supporting President Trump that I think it will affect the final outcome in Fulton County as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and not only are there fewer blacks supporting Harris, but the black vote supposedly is down. And again, early voting there ends November 1st. They got 1 week to get their act together. But Trump's people think they're ahead there right now on the early and absentee balloting. I don't know that I buy that. I don't know that they're ahead. But the fact that they're 20 points better than they were in 2020, just, again, I think Georgia was an anomaly in 2020. The idea that one county stops counting ballots and goes home, and I don't know what they do, go fishing, whatever they do for a day while the ballots sit in somebody's warehouse, or I don't know what is going on. I don't trust the result from that last time.
Yeah.
In major, and I got to say, this is a state where Trump has a fairly sizable lead on the. I'm going to Real Clear Politics. Bloomberg has him up. The Atlanta Urinal Constipation has him up. Eastern Carolina, they've been a horrible pollster, has him up. Emerson has him up. Quinnipiac has him up, along with Insider Advantage and some of the quote-unquote Republican polls.
Right.
I think Trafalgar, he's up anywhere from 1 to 6 on here. And I don't – the Harris campaign has poured money into Georgia. Poured money. And I don't think it's paying off very much.
No, I agree with that. I think that Georgia will probably be his easiest win out of all of the toss-up states. I think that he'll win that with the greatest percentage. We do see. It's kind of ground zero, when you think of the case that was brought against him there and how he was treated, and you have Fannie Willis and that whole deal, and that played out in front of their eyes, and they're like, that was embarrassing, I think, for a lot of people there. And it's like, what the heck? I can't support this. I can't go along with this. I'm washing my hands of it.
Yeah, and they've made ballot reforms in the past 4 years.
Many, yes.
Many. I mean, outlawing the ballot harvesting, the old drop box ballots, photo ID required for some of the in-person stuff for early voting or some. I can't remember all the details, but a big hubbub was made about it. But I have way more confidence in the outcome. I think that will be decided pretty early.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's all margin of victory. I mean, if Trump has it by, seeing him up by 3, 4, 5 tells me he's probably up by more than that. That's probably my guess. The state that I don't know what to make of is North Carolina.
Yeah, that confuses me why that's even close.
But the Harris team was very bullish on North Carolina a few weeks ago. They've since walked that back a little bit. Well, we got a chance there. Right. And the only thing I can think of is, like I said, between Georgia, which I think is gone for them, Pennsylvania and North Carolina, they have to win one.
Yeah.
And North Carolina is the one state I've heard Trump people say, no way we're going to lose it.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way. And I've heard Democrats be very bullish on it too. What's your sense of North Carolina right now, Jay?
Unfortunately, I think it'll be closer than it should be. Part of that is because of, the college towns there, Asheville being one of them.
Hurricane Helene being a
yeah,
issue.
but
that might actually motivate people more.
And I think it will. I think it's not going to be as close as the polls are currently showing. I do expect Trump to win that by probably 5 at least. Because it sounds like up in the mountains, people are definitely set to vote.
Yeah, and I want to review this. He won it by 2 last time, 50-48. He won it by a little more in 16.
Yeah.
Actually, he got a lower percentage of the vote.
Huh.
Won it by the Gary Johnson vote, maybe, too.
Okay.
But the final, listen to this for a trio of liberal pollsters. Final poll, Marist poll, Trump +2, Emerson, Trump +2, Bloomberg, Trump +2.
Huh.
All in North Carolina, which tells me it's by more than that.
Yeah.
But I think that's very interesting that they, in October of 2020, Biden and Clinton were both polling ahead. And, of course, both of them lost the state.
Right.
So, I am going to put that in Trump's column, but just a little, the state's head scratching to me.
Yeah.
Why it's so close and what is held back the state. I can't really figure it out. Why is it so different from Tennessee or South Carolina or the states that surround it.
Right.
I don't understand it, but it is strange. It has gone Republican. Obama won it in 2008 by like 0.014%. And other than that, it's gone Republican every year since Jimmy Carter.
Yeah.
So I just don't expect that. Again, the Harris campaign has just spent a gazillion dollars there.
Yeah.
I mean, a gazillion. Which is funny because I think her easiest path to victory is the 3 Great Lakes states and Nebraska too. Mm-hmm. That puts her at 270. So I don't get what. I think it's the bulwark against losing Pennsylvania. Maybe I don't know, but
yeah.
But I just am baffled by North Carolina. Moving on to Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Okay, this is a tough state for Harris. And this might be the one state where I actually think Biden might have done better than her. I mean, you've got Biden schools Scranton Joe.
Yeah.
Biden had a much stronger support among unions. I think that's a big issue in those Rust Belt states.
Right.
I think the energy producing states, there's demographic problems there. Polls have been close, but you know what? Pennsylvania is going to be, nobody's going to win that state by 10.
No.
So I'm not shocked that, again, I'd like to see Trump more like outside the margin of error.
Yeah.
You know, he's sitting at like +1, +2, which again might mean that he's up by more. But when I see the Senate candidate there running away from Harris, to me, that's all I need to know about where that state's going.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, I wanted to mention one thing in North Carolina I forgot to.
Okay.
Early voting in North Carolina, Jay. In 2020, this is as of yesterday. I want to say, because I don't have numbers for today. I think they don't update till tomorrow morning. Okay. So just through yesterday. In 2020, 2 million people had already voted in North Carolina.
Wow.
And again, they have affiliations. 44% Democrat, 28% Republican, 28% Independent.
Ouch.
16-point Democratic lead.
Yeah.
In 2024, 1.6 million people have already voted.
Okay.
30
down a little bit.
Well, and I expected that a little bit with COVID and all that.
Right.
34% Democratic, 34% Republican, 32% Independent.
Huh.
So dead even.
Yeah.
And again, if that's even, where do the Harris people go?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't get it. So, and again, they got a week to change that. You know, they've got a week to, I don't know what they're waiting for. I mean, it doesn't make sense that they're not. I want to see how many people voted in North Carolina in 2020. It was 5.5 million people. So you're looking at, again, over a quarter of the state, almost 30%.
Yeah.
So that's so. Anyhow, Pennsylvania, Jay, I mean, what do you think is going on in Pennsylvania? Harris is finally spending the time there that Trump's totally spent her as far as time goes.
Yeah.
What's your sense of where Pennsylvania's going? Because a lot of people say who wins this probably wins the election.
Right.
You know?
I think it's his. I think it's going to be close, probably 2 points. You know, you look at things there. Fetterman is still pretty popular, I think, as far as a senator goes. They have not really been trotting him out to events, which amazes me.
They haven't brought Josh Shapiro out to one recently either.
Yeah. You know, and so I don't understand that. When you have some popular Democrat politicians, how are they not coming out in support of you? But I think part of that is people are backing away from her, although they don't want to see Donald Trump win because they know that it's going to destroy everything that they've tried to build over the last 100 years. It's also going to be I don't think they want to attach themselves to a loser. I think there's that. They see that she is going down like a ship of drowning rats, and and they're not gung ho about her because they know that she's unhinged. They know that she isn't smart. They know that they are probably not going to be able to help that campaign at all in the direction that it's headed.
I think that that's true. I just think that something just concerns me about Pennsylvania. I think Trump will win it as well. I think it is the linchpin to winning. I'm going to say right now it's probably a must win for her.
Yeah.
I'm really having a hard time finding a scenario in which she loses Pennsylvania and wins the election. I just, with the Sunbelt states going the way they are,
yeah,
I just don't foresee it. I don't see she'd have to win North Carolina and Nevada and Wisconsin and Michigan. Even then, I don't know that that's quite enough.
Yeah.
It might be. It might be like two. I can't add it in my head right now, but for Trump, I think it's the clinching state. I think if he wins that,
yeah,
it's over. If
and we might even know by the time he clinches it.
Well, I think we will know Pennsylvania. I mean, Republicans are behind. I don't have totals right now. They're behind there on the mail-in ballot, but they're behind by a lot less than they were last time.
Yeah.
It's by like 500,000 votes. They've less. So they've got, like I said, they've ramped up their voter registration. They used to be down 800,000. When Trump won it in 2016, there were 800,000 more registered Democrats than Republicans. Now it's 200,000 is the gap.
Wow.
Or 150,000. It's something. There's a guy, they got Charlie Kirk doing that down in Arizona, and there's a guy, I saw him on a cable program who's been working on that in Pennsylvania, and they've really closed the gap, and the independents usually break right in that state. So I think it's a strong state for Trump. I just think that I can't imagine him losing Pennsylvania. It's funny because I actually, when I look at the three Rust Belt states, I actually don't think it's the most conservative. I actually think that's Wisconsin.
Really?
Yeah, I do. I think Wisconsin is culturally not as liberal, and I think being a smaller state, I think you could move that a little bit easier than you can a bigger state. But I think Pennsylvania is Trump's best shot of those stuff. I think he might win all three, but I'm just going to throw it out there that I think Wisconsin's probably the most 50-50 state. But when you look at Pennsylvania, I mean, their governor's a Democrat, both their senators are Democrats, majority. The legislature actually is Republican.
Yeah.
So maybe it's very 50-50 as well, but I'm going to predict that Trump takes that as also, and I think it is the state that clinches it for him.
Right.
Wisconsin. Speaking of Wisconsin, I mean, a state I can't figure out. I can't figure out Wisconsin and Michigan. Here you have a state where the Democratic governor was just reelected. The Republican senator was just reelected from there.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the most purple state in the country. The polls are dead even, which is very bad for Harris.
Yeah.
Because Biden and Mrs. Clinton were way up. Biden was up 8 points at this point in 2020 and damn near lost it. And, of course, Clinton did lose it. So what's your gut tell you about – now, Wisconsin not as culturally to the left. I think there's a lot of medium counties and small towns, especially in western Wisconsin, where I think Trump will offset a lot of the big city vote. What's your sense of where Wisconsin is right now? How confident are you in Wisconsin?
That's the one that worries me the most, and
Really?
I think it's maybe because there's the least amount of information. Tammy Baldwin is still doing pretty good in the polls there. Although
It's very close right now.
it's very
I
close.
think it's under 2 points.
And I just, you look at some of the things that have happened electorally in Wisconsin over the past couple of cycles, other than, getting Ron Johnson reelected. There's been a lot of things that have kind of gone the Democrats' way anytime it's close. So that's the one that kind of worries me.
Really? Well, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, it's probably been the closest state, the last 2 elections.
Yeah.
I mean, Trump won it by what, 0.5 and lost it by 0.3.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just neck and neck. Again, I think it is. I still think that it's a easier state though for Trump to flip. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Even though I think the issues favor him more in Pennsylvania. I think it's truly a jump ball. I'm going to give Trump an advantage there because my gut tells me that there's still a hidden Trump vote there. I still think that a tie goes to Trump in my book.
Yeah.
That if they're even, he'll win it.
Okay.
The early voting, of course, Wisconsin, you don't register with a party, so you kind of have to see it. The Republican counties look pretty heavy.
Yeah.
The Democratic counties look down right now. I think they're still outdoing the Republicans,
Yeah.
but I think there's good news in that state. And I think Trump will eke out a 50.6 to 49.1 victory in Wisconsin. I think he'll eke it out. Well, that leaves Michigan, Jay.
Yeah.
And Michigan is another state that I don't know what to make of the polls there. The polls have Trump's, again, slightly ahead, which they've never had before.
Right.
There's a few outliers for Harris that make no sense. But where do you get a sense Michigan is? Now, again, you got a heavy union vote. You got a heavy minority vote. You've got strong outstate for Trump.
Yeah.
But what do you see moving in Michigan? What do you see there?
I think that the rank and file in the auto workers union are going to break for Trump.
Yeah.
I do, because
there's a
he's
gap
the only
between
one.
them and the brass.
Yeah.
There?
There's only one candidate that's proposing solutions to help the car industry. The Muslim vote there is not going to break for Trump, but I think that they might go third party because they don't like Harris. They don't like her answers. They don't like, even though I would say she is worse on Israel than Biden is.
Yeah.
Like a lot. Despite having a Jewish husband, I think
she certainly can't articulate a position, and that's just trying. She's satisfying nobody, is what she's doing.
Right.
I mean, she'd be better off saying, "Yeah, I'm for death to Israel." She'd be better off saying that.
Yeah.
But I think she's losing everybody by trying to walk the line.
Right. So I think that Trump can win Michigan. I think it's going to be close, but I think that it would probably be within 3 points.
Yeah, I am. I'm hoping for Trump here, but I don't know what it is about Michigan voters. The state's literally been in a recession since the 70s.
True.
And yet they just don't flip that switch. And I think they could.
Yeah.
Again, for Harris, this is an absolute 110% must win.
Yeah.
She loses Michigan. I can't see how she wins Wisconsin or Pennsylvania.
Right.
Because Michigan is to the left of them, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not by a lot.
I would agree with
Michigan's not, it's 53-47 maybe.
Yeah, because you've got the whole UP and you got,
Yeah, I mean, it's Republicans get strong support there. But I just don't know that I trust. I just feel like Trump might just fall short there.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I would say
Gretchen Whitmer's been putting out some of the most cringeworthy stuff.
I don't know what she's doing. I have no idea what she's doing. She's just an airhead.
Yeah.
She's just dumb. I don't know what to say about her.
But she was dumb during COVID too and
Right.
got reelected.
I know.
So I don't get it.
What do you say about it? I don't know. I think Harris has not spent the time there that she needs to.
Yeah.
She's got to shore up that union and that minority vote. She's got to shore that up. If you look at how Biden got elected, minority vote, union vote, winning a majority of women, that's how he got over the top. And I don't know that Harris really has any of those demographics nailed down. I mean, women maybe if abortion's the only issue you care about,
right?
But you're not a movable voter then. It doesn't matter. I mean, and I think the minority vote is something that Democrats have nothing to say about the last 4 years, and I really think that that union vote is something that I think Trump's really cut into. I think that Green New Deal hurts in Michigan. It hurts in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Harris has no answer to it other than word salad. She has nothing to say. She's not shored up those constituencies. But I just don't trust Michigan. I keep thinking that state at some point's going to wake up, and they just don't seem to.
Right.
And I think when Trump won it, I think they were caught off guard by it, and the Republicans come up just short there ever since.
Yeah.
Just short. Trump got like 49% of the vote last time. It just wasn't quite enough. And something just tells me that might happen again. I'm going to say that's my least confident state with Trump right now.
Huh.
Just because I just don't trust the voters there. I don't know how many are really going to vote third party. I mean, you hear that, but are they really going to go throw their vote away like that? I don't know. I mean, some of them might. Some of them might stay home. But you got a hot Senate race there. You've got, there's a lot of reasons to go out and vote. And I don't know how many are really going to do that. So I'm going to reluctantly say that Harris might eke that state out. Just might.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and it just might be because in Minnesota there's really no Senate race. I mean, there is on paper, but I haven't seen one ad. Amy Klobuchar certainly hasn't put an ad out.
I've seen one or two from Klobuchar.
And so I personally, yes, doing my research, I'm going to vote in it. I'm not saying that, but I'm not passionate about it. And so I don't know. Have I ever really been as passionate about a Senate race as something else? Now, I'm a little bit of a weird animal politically because of what we do and how we do it. So I probably have been, but I don't know if it's enough to have a hot Senate race to get voters out, if that's the top of the ticket. Do people really get that excited about a Senate race? I mean, they'll have some enthusiasm about it, but is that enough to get them out to the polls?
I don't know. But I know that Slotkin, the candidate out there, kind of let the cat out of the bag. That her polling, they think Harris is underwater there.
Yeah,
and I never hear Democrats talk about their internal. I'm surprised Chuck Schumer didn't bring her to New York and give her an ass chewing for that, because that's you don't. If you're down, you don't go out and say it like that. And, Democrats never do that.
Right. Well, I mean, look at it from Chuck Schumer's point of view. If things hold, in 4 years from now, he can run to be the first female president.
He's looking awfully glum.
Yeah.
He's looking glum. Hey, what do you say? If you had to bet on the popular vote, the national popular vote, where's your money going there?
Ooh, goodness. Yeah, I think Trump might eke it out. It's going to be close, but with the time he's really spending in New York and California, I think he might eke it out.
Well, I actually think I'm going to give him a 1 out of 2. I think he does have a good chance to win it, and I think the reason is the 3 biggest red states,
Ohio,
Ohio, Florida, and Texas. It would not shock me if you won all three by double digits. The way the early vote's going in Florida right now,
Yeah.
which, if the Republicans continue to carry Miami-Dade,
Yeah.
which I know DeSantis did, but I was wondering if that was an anomaly or not.
Right.
He's going to win Florida by 12 or 14.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, I think 10 might be 9. That might be an over-under.
Yeah.
Same in Texas. I mean, although Democrats for some reason are pouring money into that Senate race like crazy.
Oh, they are. Well, and that's crazy because Ted Cruz is their number one target.
Hate Ted Cruz so much.
And Mitch McConnell has not given $1 to Ted
exactly.
Cruz. I am so glad he's done.
Exactly.
Get out.
Yeah. And
You're worthless.
McConnell should be voted out
years
ago. Cruz is very much on his own. I mean, luckily, he's very well known nationally. So nationally, Republicans have given him a lot of money. But he's had to do it with small donors and, that kind of crap. But, I mean, if he wins Ohio, Texas, and Florida by double digits, I mean, that adds how many hundreds of thousands of votes right there?
That's a lot. I'll tell you that.
And if he loses New York by 400,000 less votes,
right,
and he's not going to lose Virginia by 10, he might lose Virginia by 3.
Yeah.
But we haven't even talked about the states that are going to flip.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think he'll win every red state by more. So it's possible that he can. And I think you're dead right, though. I think it's 49-49 probably.
Yeah.
But if somebody threw me a C note, I think I'd bet on Trump to pull it off.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, so what? But here's the other thing too. If he wins the popular vote by any kind of margin, he's going to take more than just the 7 swing states.
Yeah.
Whether that's Virginia, whether that's New Hampshire, a state like that. New Mexico, there was a poll showing him down by 3.
Wow.
Which I don't quite believe because I think Trump would be there if he had those numbers.
Right.
But border state, I mean, but maybe Trump just can't be everywhere at this point, and he could run ads there, and that might be it. But he'll win more than that, I think, if he wins the popular vote. I think he'll go beyond the 7 swing states. So, Now, Jay.
Yeah.
Let's play this out.
Okay.
Trump wins.
Yeah.
We're sitting here 2 weeks from now doing a podcast talking about Trump doing his Grover Cleveland impersonation here.
Yeah.
And completing the greatest political comeback in the history of the country.
Right.
Hands down.
Absolutely.
10 times what Grover Cleveland or Richard Nixon or anybody else went through.
Right.
What happens in this country? Because when I listen to the media and the liberal pollsters talk, I feel like they know what's coming and they're trying to brace the left for it.
Yeah.
I really think that they, like I said, in 2016 they were beating their chest, thought they had it won.
Yeah.
No conception that Trump was going to win. And they don't think that now.
No.
There's nobody out there who thinks Trump can't win.
Yeah, I'm hearing over and over, this looks like 2016.
Yeah, and I actually think it looks
better.
Way better than 2016.
Yeah.
Because Trump's not coming out of nowhere.
Right.
So, I mean, 2016, the polls showed him down in Florida, down in Ohio, down in Iowa, and he won them all. Now they're not being contested. I mean, no one's 220 electoral votes are being conceded to him. So
right.
There's no conception that that he has no chance to win.
Right.
So what happens in this country? I watched Morning Joe the other day, and I'm going to tell you something. I think Comcast, who owns MSNBC, either should be sued or needs to step in to these programs.
Yeah.
Because I basically heard plan in place to do. It's one of the reasons I want him to win the popular vote so much.
Right.
Because I don't want any of this.
It was stolen.
Really win.
It was,
I don't want litigation. I don't want any of this crap. What do you think that's going to happen? Because I thought Joe Scarborough was promoting riots. Do you think Dems are going to accept this election result? I mean, I don't want to hear anything about January 6th if you don't. I mean, I think you're going to see riots.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see pressure on electoral college voters to not vote for Trump, which in some states they don't have a choice. I think you're going to see attempts. Jamie Raskin's already come out and said that he's not going to let Trump take the oath.
Right.
Which I don't know on what grounds.
Exactly.
The lawfare is going to ratchet up, or does it ratchet down?
Oh, it'll ratchet up. I think that.
But what happens? I mean, what we're sitting here 2 weeks from now. What's going on?
Well, I think there was a network of people, including Antifa and groups like that were ready to riot 4 years ago if the vote had gone the other way. You can be sure that that plan is still in place this time around. They will not go quietly. So if we find out that Trump wins on election night, it's not going to take too long. I think they're mobilized. I think they have supplies. I think they're ready to go. Now, could that not happen? Sure. That's always a possibility. But I think that they will follow through on those plans to cause unrest, to prove that, this is unsafe. We have to bring sanity. The whole goal 4 years ago was to create such a stir that they had some leverage to negotiate with Trump to either step down and not take the presidency, or and this is not QAnon stuff. This is you can find this. This was out there. But I think that stuff is still in play, where they want to do that. I think they're also going to come at him with the lawfare. Jack Smith is not done. He tried to get that case implemented while it was still in the campaign cycle. I'm sure he will bring that back afterward. Plus, you've got the case in New York, the sentencing for that. I don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, Trump's going to appeal that. So I don't know if that's going to put a delay on any of that kind of stuff or what. But you're going to have the lawfare. Also, I believe there will be continued attempts on his life. Iran is not going to back down. There's been continued concern. I know the Trump campaign has asked to have like an F-15 follow the plane, because Air Force One has counter mechanisms in case a surface-to-air missile was shot at them. Trump's plane does not have that, and but Biden said no, you can't have an F-15. So I don't know. That's still a vulnerability for him until January. When
Then
he takes the oath of office. Does
he have to kind of hide out between Election Day and because Trump's bravado, I just can't see him going, I'm going to go sit down in Mar-a-Lago for 11 weeks.
No. I mean, he's going to do a lot of golfing. Don't get me wrong. He's going to do
a
lot
that nearly
of
got
golfing.
Him killed.
Yeah, that's true. But he also already said before he takes
he wants
the
to
oath
go
of office,
meet with Russia and Ukraine and end the war.
And end that war and the Israeli war. So
he should.
Yeah.
Why wait and let all these people die before you can do something? Then do it. It's funny. Netanyahu comes here and he meets with Trump. He didn't even. It's weird. He comes here. He just ignores Biden and Harris and goes to meet with Trump.
I know.
I honestly, I don't know. The left has to be. We always give them too much credit, I think. But at the same time, you've got to say to yourself, what does it do? If I'm a liberal and I've tried to put Donald Trump in jail and I've tried to impeach him and I've watched him get shot at twice and he wins anyway, don't I have to do some self-reflecting?
They won't.
Okay, but I know the Adam Schiffs of the world won't.
Yeah.
But does somebody there have to go time out? Okay? Ratcheting up this might make this worse, not better.
I don't think they care. Everything's on the line right now. If they don't win,
well, they're not
right.
You keep saying if they don't win. Well, their candidate has stunk.
Oh yes,
So
without a doubt.
But there seems to be no demand in the Harris campaign to what are you doing? You are losing.
Right.
Then you go get an interview and you just say the same damn thing you said a month ago.
Yeah.
People are panicking, but they're not changing.
And I think there's
I feel
one
like
reason
she's half
for that.
giving up.
I think that they're also relying on the pressure that's going to come from the rest of the world towards America when we try to buck the system that they're setting up. You've got the World Economic Forum, you've now got the UN, and we talked about that in the last podcast. And I think that there's a plan to put pressure on America to follow suit. And if they don't, whatever it is they think that they're going to do, and maybe they've got assurances. I mean, after all, there were 100 Labour Party members that came from the UK and are handing out lit and going door to door for Harris. Now, that I guess
interference.
I guess it's legal because they're not getting paid for it, but still,
Really, if Vladimir Putin's people were coming here handing out lit for Trump, would that not get a legal challenge?
Yeah.
By the way, new Emerson poll, New Hampshire, Harris 50, Trump 48.
Huh.
What did I say?
Very close.
Yeah. Anyhow, that could happen. I'm just worried about. I just can't understand. Look, if I remember when Republicans were doing everything to Bill Clinton except lynching him.
Yeah.
And then when he won, was there any soul searching to, okay, we tried this and failed. We have to reflect here.
Yeah.
But what worries me about Dems, I saw this with George W. Bush. They hate him, and he wins anyway.
Yeah.
Didn't stop them from doing anything.
No.
So, Trump gets shot at. It doesn't stop them from doing anything.
Right.
So if Trump wins, are we looking at and I think this is why winning the House is just a has to be, because the lawfare will just go from the courtroom to Congress.
Yeah. Well, I think they believe that they can either make it so Trump does not take the oath of office if he wins. So they're frantic, but I think they've got backup plans. If they can keep him from taking the oath of office by lawfare or by whatever, by swaying electors not to certify the election, whatever it is, then I don't know what that gets them. I mean, at worst for them, J.D. Vance is president. That's not going to be any better for them.
Maybe, but I mean, if enough electors don't certify the Electoral College, what happens then? What does the House do? Yeah,
I mean, the House has got to take a vote, but they can only. I heard it explained, and it's complicated.
It is complicated.
They can't vote for Trump if the electors, they can only vote for people that were. I don't have the terminology, but basically they can only vote for Harris, because if Donald Trump is decertified or whatever, that makes Republicans to not show up so that there's not a quorum. And then if there's not a quorum, then Harris can't be voted in. And then it's crazy. I don't know. I heard this guy talk about on Glenn Beck's podcast, and you'll have to go look that up. But it really is a crazy scenario. And it kind of is like throwing a stick of dynamite into the middle of the republic, and it's crazy.
But it's only a matter of time before violence erupts, before, chaos happens.
Yeah. Well, that's what they're counting on. They want chaos. But here's the thing. I mean, if they can stop him from taking the oath of office, that's their first plan. If not, then the pressure from the world, because Trump is moving in one direction and the rest of the world is moving in the other, and they think that they're going to be able to slow him down by having this global pressure. I think he's going to do what he's going to do, and he's not going to succumb to global pressure.
Go bend over. That's what I think. Trump's not going to.
No.
This is the guy that got NATO countries to pay. I think
know.
The opposite might happen.
I know.
What does Joe Biden do? Joe Biden call up old Donald and say, hey, congratulations? Because I think what happens depends a lot on Biden, Harris, their conduct.
Yeah.
I think a lot depends on that. Look, you can't control every whack job.
Right.
Okay? Neither person can. That's just a fact.
Yeah.
Some nut job wants to do something. It has nothing to do with Harris or Trump. Okay? Although their rhetoric is...
Right. Well, she's still out there calling him Hitler.
Well, my guess is by the weekend we don't hear that anymore.
Really?
I think when Trump goes on Rogan...
Yeah.
And Madison Square Garden has like people hanging from the rafters, I think they're kind of, like I said, I feel like Harris is giving up.
Yeah.
I feel like she's like a duck hit over the head. She doesn't know what to do. And I think they're trying to trot out this to see if this works.
Yeah.
And when it doesn't, she has no closing argument.
She doesn't.
So,
she is really the worst lawyer ever.
But I prosecuted people. I mean, that's, totally. The burden is unburdened by the burdensome burdens. She should write now and later jokes or something. Yeah, I mean, I say I'm with you. I think that I think liberals. I really. The thing is, you got to be prepared for your candidate to lose. It's something. It's okay to be confident.
Yeah.
It's okay to, wish for the best.
Yep.
But I think you gotta say to yourself, what happens if it just doesn't go my way? Nothing goes anybody's way 100% of the time. So
4 years ago, we had to figure that out.
Have a meltdown to watch Biden take the oath. But I mean, what? Let's roll this out. I'll throw the best scenario out there. Trump wins.
Yeah.
Wins the popular vote.
Yeah.
Which we may not know the popular vote total for a while, with all the absentee ballots in Arizona and a few other states like that.
Yeah.
We may not know that for a week or two. I don't think the elections get certified state by state until I think they've got most of November to do that. Actually, Electoral College doesn't meet till like December 15th or something like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we do have some time, but let's just play it out. Say he wins the swing states, or most of them, or all of them. I think he's got a 1 in 3, maybe even better, to sweep them all.
Yeah.
If he wins decisively, how do they react?
I think they're out in the streets, like the activists are out in the streets.
What did Harris and Biden do?
I think
Does
publicly,
she concede?
No.
She doesn't concede.
I don't think she concedes. I don't think she will. I think that, like everything else they've done, they'll stay quiet. They'll pretend like they're going back to work, but the people behind the scenes are going to be trying to put things into motion.
So she doesn't concede. She loses by 100 electoral votes. She doesn't concede. I mean, let's just play it out. Let's say she's going to lose Arizona. She's going to lose Georgia.
Yeah.
Let's say she loses Pennsylvania. She loses North Carolina. She loses Wisconsin. She loses Nevada. And it's not a 272 to 266 win. It's 3-something to 220. And it's really not all that close.
Right.
She doesn't concede.
It's got to be pretty big, pretty clear.
Yeah.
I think she has to if we're talking like it. Stevie Wonder could figure it out, right? Like if Stevie Wonder,
Stevie's not a dumb guy.
No, just if he's watching the TV,
he can't see it. Yeah.
Right? He'd still know. Watching the TV on mute, he would still know.
He'll take Ronnie Millsap in. Yeah.
Ronnie Millsap. There's not enough Ronnie Millsap quotations on
definitely not.
on podcasts today. I'll tell you what.
Singer in my book. But I think maybe that's true. But do you think any of it quells if Biden and Harris concede?
No,
because I mean, we talk about Trump not accepting the election results. Well, what about?
No, I don't think it does. He's the devil. They've got to put him in jail or kill him. The activists, I mean, look when these colleges tried to shut down the protests. They keep coming back. These kids have been trained by Marxist professors to go out and tear down the cities or the institutions that they see the injustice in. And he is a representation of that. He represents the patriarchy. He represents the rich. He represents friendship with Israel. He represents, you go down the list. Freedom of speech.
Yeah.
He's a threat to the LGBTQ community.
Is he?
No.
Isn't he going to lower their grocery prices too?
Right.
I mean,
stop you from abusing kids. I mean,
right.
that's it.
It's a one-issue thing,
But these people are taught to be one-issue people.
Yeah.
And when you have kids that haven't paid bills, that haven't had to buy a house, that haven't had to, they don't know any better. They need to be punched in the face by life a few times, right? Right. They need to say, "Ooh, I don't have enough to buy this and this month," and before they start figuring it out. So once you start going to the school of hard knocks, sometimes you kind of lessen. It doesn't mean you become more conservative. Some do. Yeah. But I think these activists
depends what you do for a career.
But I think they're angry enough, all these women's studies people and these LGBTQ studies people.
Jay,
that
back up a bit.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a question. All year long, Trump's been leading. I mean, all year long, he's been winning.
Yeah.
There was one blip when Biden dropped out, and as soon as people took a look at Harris, they moved right back to Trump.
Right.
So haven't they had all this time to go, hey, you know what? Hey, the guy could do it.
Yeah, not going to matter. It's kind of like...
But I mean, like the whole time Biden was running, the whole time Obama was there, in the back of my head, I knew they could win. Well, I didn't think they would, but I knew they could. So I kind of mentally prepared, all right, maybe
but that's because we're normal people. Somewhat. We're not people. This makes them angry. This makes them flaming inside. Like,
people.
I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do something about this. This is an injustice.
Giving a 10-year-old puberty blockers enrages me, but I don't go burn a building down.
That's because we're normal people that follow the rule of law. They've been taught that laws don't matter. You can go out and
laws are racist.
Break laws, and because you are marginalized, it's okay.
Yeah. If you're a victim, it's all right.
So, no, I don't think there's anything that would keep some of these people from any of that. He won fair and square 8 years ago. In 2016. And yet you had people at his inauguration crying in the streets and shouting, and you had a rally with all these people like Madonna that thought about blowing up the White House, and the rhetoric was bad then, but it's 10 times worse today.
That's sick. It's just sick.
Yeah.
But I just don't understand why. How about the mainstream media? Do they have to take any blame here? I mean,
Yeah.
useful. They just turned on him with taking no responsibility that they had propped him up for 7 years.
Yeah.
Or at least 3, or at least 5.
Yeah.
They've done everything they can to destroy this guy, and he wins anyway. I mean, does there have to be? I mean, mainstream media, look, after weapons of mass destruction, there was a little bit of rethinking. After COVID, even, there was a little bit of rethinking. After, the Mueller report, there was a little bit, okay, we went a little too far with Russia. There was 10% of them actually sat and kind of reflected on how dumb they are. They're dying throughout the country. Alternative media is starting to kick their. Joe Rogan will get 10 times the viewers that CNN got with Harris yesterday. When does the mainstream media say to themselves, "What the hell have we been doing?"
And I think you mentioned it. Do you think after this interview on Friday with Trump on Rogan, is that going to cause Trump's numbers to go way up from where they're at now? And B, if they do and Trump wins the election partially because of this interview giving him the boost he needs at the end, what does that do to the mainstream media? I think
the mainstream media will continue to marginalize people like Joe Rogan. They will continue to not think of him as a journalist. I think they have contempt for the people who listen.
But does that cause their downfall, or does that
I think
just
their downfall is
continue?
inevitable? But I wish they would. I wish they would change. I just wish they'd give us the news instead of their opinion. And there's a time and a place for an opinion show, and there's time and a place for news. And I think news has become about ratings, about eyeballs on a YouTube.
It's entertainment.
It's entertainment. Well, where do I get my news then?
Yeah.
And I think, no, I don't think there will be. And do I think this will help Trump? Absolutely, I do. 100%. Trump's great in this environment.
Yeah.
I think he'll be funny. I think he'll be provocative. I think he and Rogan will get along well. I think he'll come off great in this. I don't think he needs to go on this. I think the fact that he is, I think this is a knockout punch.
Yeah.
And I think it's great timing. I wanted him to go on Rogan sooner than this, but I've rethought it. Where are you going to go for your clothes?
Yeah.
And get more people to watch, to stream, download? Where are you going to go than Joe Rogan?
Right.
And, Joe is conservative on some issues, libertarian on some issues, maybe to the left on a few issues. He's pretty all over the place.
Yeah.
He's pretty fair, and I think that he will be. Yeah. And I think it shows a lot by Trump that he can just sit for hours on a podcast and do this.
Right.
So yes, I think he'll be helped. I think he'll be helped a lot by it. I don't think he needs it, but I think this is a foot on the neck, if you will. Right. That's what I think it is.
Right.
And I think it will help a lot.
So is Kamala going to do it or not?
Are you kidding me?
There's been rumors that they had it worked out, then they didn't have it worked out, or he will eat her alive. She knows that, right?
But
if she does not answer questions.
But I think Joe will be fair to her.
Oh, yeah.
I just think that it will be, she can't go there and hold her own for any type of show like this. I mean, I just don't think she can do it. I think that's the issue. I don't think it's I think she knows Rogan will be fair, but not a softie.
Yeah.
I think she can't go on something like that. And I think it's too late, Jay. It's too late.
Yeah.
What's she going to say on Joe Rogan that's going to be anything we haven't heard?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think she'd go on there?
All she has is rehearsed answers, of course.
She can't go. I loved the town hall they did with Maria Shriver, where they asked her if they were able to ask. She goes, no, the questions are, quote, predetermined.
Right.
Which means she knows them, Harris knows them, Liz Cheney knows them.
Mm-hmm.
The questions are known and the answers are known. That's a town hall, NBC style.
Yes.
No, you can't ask the person running for president a question. Joke. Insane.
Yes.
Idiotic. Who does that persuade?
No one.
Yeah, and I think her going on Rogan would be a disaster. Just a disaster. Can you imagine her sitting up for hours? What would she say? Yeah, I grew up in a middle-class family. She can only say that so many times before. I mean, look at the interview with Brett Baer. Her whole strategy was to not answer, was to filibuster.
And blame Donald
Show
Trump.
up late.
Yeah.
Get Baer off his game. Make Baer look aggressive.
Yeah.
That was the whole game plan. Game plan had nothing to do with telling the truth, with any new ideas, with persuading any voters. It was all to go viral, play the victim, to get, Democrats to get pissed off. That was the whole point.
Right.
The hell was that? All right. We've talked enough. I got the Vikings game taped. I'm going to go watch it. I got to unwind. Styling, profiling, jet flying, limousine riding, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun. Jay, what's your pre-election preach? Let's go.
All right.
This day for 4 years.
All right. Well, let me lay it on you. You'd better be voting. Why? Because if you don't, it's really a vote for Harris. Because Donald Trump needs every single vote that he can muster in each and every state. Why? Because this has to be decisive. Now, for those of you who say, oh, I'm just going to sit it out, or I can't vote for that man. First of all, you got to put your pride in check. If you're saying you can't vote for him, and you're normally somebody that supports conservative candidates, because if you're going to not vote for somebody because of their personality, but yet their opponent is someone who will support abortion up through the moment of birth till that baby's laying on the table, someone whose plan for economic stimulus is to give out free drugs and free money, someone who is going to leave the border open, someone who loves the war in Ukraine, someone who doesn't support Israel. I could go down the laundry list of reasons why, as a conservative, you cannot support her. And that's the truth of it. You cannot support this candidate because of her positions. Now, let me put it like this. Good Lord, when he was here, told a parable about the Pharisees were upset because he healed a man on the Sabbath, which was against their laws and the way that they interpreted resting on the Sabbath. And he said to them, is it better if a man's donkey falls in, or a man's ox falls into the ditch, would you not help him out? Even if it's a Sabbath. Well, if a man's job, if a man's finances, if a man's children, if a man's, you fill in the blank. If a man's city, because of illegal immigration, whatever, falls in the ditch, you're not going to help him out? you're going to keep your prideful attitude and just say, no, I don't like the man. I'm voting for her. When you know it's going to bring pain and suffering upon your neighbors, pain and suffering upon your family, pain and suffering upon the people that you say that you love and you care about. What does that say about you? Or if you say you're going to sit home when you have an opportunity to put somebody in office that's going to do something about these things, and you know it because he already was 4 years in that office and did everything that he said he was going to do that was in his power to do. Remember at the end of his 4 years, what was the campaign slogan? Promises kept, promises delivered. This is a man who follows through on his word when he says he's going to do something. There's another concept that has it's part of the Judeo-Christian beliefs, but it also is part of other cultures as well. Silence equals consent. And there are multiple examples in the Bible where if, say, God asked Moses to tap once on the rock for water to come out because people were complaining about being thirsty. And he was angry with the people of Israel, and he tapped it twice, and God was angry with him and with Aaron. Why was he angry with Aaron? Aaron didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. Well, yeah, that's why he was angry, because he didn't go to Moses and say, you know what? That's not what God asked you to do. You need to make it right. He didn't do that. And there are other examples in there too, where if a bride gives her vows and the husband doesn't say anything and it goes past the allotted time and all of a sudden, he disagreed with them but kept silent, he will also receive the penalty that the curses that go along with staying silent in that situation. We have to step up to the plate here and not be so selfish. We cannot remain silent. We can't. Silence equals consent. So if you consent to abortion up through the 9th month, if you consent to illegal immigration pouring over our borders, the sex trafficking, the drug trafficking, if you consent to all of this, millions and billions of dollars going to illegal aliens instead of the people that are hurt here that need it, if that's you, that you disagree with those things, but through your silence, that's what we get for the next 4 years, the continued inflation and all of it, then you're going to bear the responsibility for it. You need to vote. We were given a country that best matches the original idea where Israel did not have a king. It was them and God. And they had representatives in between. That is what we have, is a representative republic. We democratically elect leaders to represent us, and it's just otherwise. It's us and God. And we're losing that system to a democracy which always falls apart, which always becomes a strong man has to come in and put it back together. We don't want that. Not with what's showing up in the World Economic Forum, not what's showing up at the UN. You don't want any part of that. You need somebody that will stand for our country to make sure that it is America first and then the rest of the world. Not America first and then nobody else is helped. We're a good country. We've done wrong things. We've done some evil things. But overall, our track record's pretty good. So let us do what is right. It's our time to set things back in order. So I'm counting on you, Minnesota, all of you, no matter what county you're in, all the way from Roseau, all the way down to that southeast corner. If you're in International Falls, if you're in Albert Lea, okay, if you're in Grand Marais or you're out in like Worthington, you have to vote. It's not just so that we can win. It is your responsibility. That's what I got. We're down to this. You know in your heart of hearts who carries the values that you agree with. Don't sit this out. We've done our part. We've made our case. A better closing argument than that prosecutor from San Francisco that's running on the Democrat ticket. Now, I ask you, please, do your part. We love you, Minnesota, but now it's your turn to get to work.